Yo, what's good? Welcome to the Fantasy Football Prodigy channel, and in this video, we're going to go over my top starts of the week for week 3 of the 2023 fantasy football season. Make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel, and here we go. We're going to start with the quarterback position, and my first start of the week is the #1 overall quarterback in fantasy, but he's still someone that I feel like a lot of people don't think of as an auto start, and maybe season long, he's not going to be an auto start week in and week out, but in week 3 against the Chargers, Kirk Cousins of my Minnesota Vikings is a borderline must start. He's a mid quarterback 1 with some upside in this game. He was the quarterback 9 and 2, weeks 1 and 2. The Vikings should be able to put up some points in this game. I think it's going to be a back and forth high scoring affair against the Chargers. I think both offenses are going to put up a ton of points. And if we get into a shootout, we could see another really high-end finish from Kirk Cousins. The running game for the Vikings hasn't been great, so I'm guessing they're going to continue to rely on this passing game with Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson. Get them in your lineups as well. But I love Kirk Cousins in week 3 to keep the hot start going. We're going to move on to the running back position. We're going to start with Travis Etienne of the Jacksonville Jags. He is my running back start of the week. I'm just targeting this Houston Texans matchup. Even going back to last year, this is the matchup for running backs in all of fantasy football. Last year, they were absolutely dreadful, terrible against the run. This year, it's the same story. He is the main running back for Jacksonville. I know last week he didn't put up a ton of points, only 5.2 in fantasy, but in half PPR. This is going to be a get-right game for Travis Etienne. Tank Bigsby didn't even get a touch last week, if I remember correctly. This is all Travis Etienne's backfield. Maybe Tank Bigsby will be involved a little bit, but he should see plenty of touches in this game. When teams play the Texans, they don't even really need to throw the ball typically to be in the game and win. So I think the Jaguars offense can do whatever they want, but I don't think their quarterback Trevor Lawrence is going to have to throw the ball that much because they should be able to rely on Travis Etienne just pounding the rock, getting in the end zone, and carrying your fantasy team through a dub. So start him up. My next running back start of the week is Jahmyr Gibbs, running back of the Detroit Lions. It hasn't been the start to the season that we were hoping, but you can just tell if you watch Gibbs play, he is a great player, very talented, very explosive. He was highly drafted. This Lions team clearly wants him to be a part of the team. And David Montgomery, fellow running back of the Detroit Lions, is listed as doubtful as of this recording for week 3. So he's probably not going to play, or maybe he's listed as out by this point. But I just looked and said he was doubtful. By the time you're watching, he might have been ruled out. So monitor the news. But I still don't think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to go out there and, pull a Christian McCaffrey and see 100% of snaps or anything like that. Even if he's, around 50% or a little bit more of the snaps, I think that'll be enough. Last week, he just didn't really do much with the touches that he got, only 7 for 17 on the ground, but he saw 9 targets, which is absolutely ridiculous. Running backs don't often do that. If you're in a PPR setting, especially, get Gibbs in your lineup. He's a running back 1, and I think throughout the season, I think we'll see his touches go up a little bit and his involvement go up, a little bit, his time on the field. But we just need him to do a little bit more with his touches. And I think he is due to do that because I do think he's a good player. And I think he could get loose for some big plays in this game against the Atlanta Falcons. So Jahmyr Gibbs, stay with him. Keep him in your lineup. Don't bench him. He's a running back 1. And he could, if he breaks off some big plays, which he is able to do, you're going to be really sad that you did not start him. So put him in the lineup. Next up, we got my wide receiver starts of the week. We're going to go with wide receiver Amari Cooper of the Cleveland Browns. Amari Cooper is a very talented player. We might be getting a little fatigued by his name just because he's been playing for a while and just being pretty solid for fantasy. But this start call ultimately comes down to the matchup with the Tennessee Titans. Deshaun Watson just hasn't looked good enough for me to make him a quarterback start of the week, but he's certainly someone you can stream or you can play if you don't have one of those top end options. But I think his top receiving option, Amari Cooper, should have a good game in this matchup. The Tennessee Titans are the perfect matchup for wide receivers. They have a really bad secondary, even going back to last year. They just bled points to fantasy wide receivers. And on the other end, they don't give up fantasy points to running backs. So is it the chicken or the egg? Is it that their run defense is just so good? Or is it that their pass defense is so bad? I don't know, but whatever formula they have going on, the passing game usually eats when a team goes up against the Titans. They also just lost Nick Chubb. It'll be Jerome Ford and Kareem Hunt holding down that backfield. So they'll get some work, but when you lose Nick Chubb and you get this pass-heavy matchup that favors the passing game, I think this is a perfect spot to start Amari Cooper. He's kind of in that wide receiver 2 tier, but if he finishes as a wide receiver 1 on the week, don't be surprised. And next up, we have Keenan Allen, wide receiver of the Chargers. Maybe this is a guy that is considered an auto start. I just want to bring him up because, kind of like Amari Cooper, we might have some fatigue with his name where we don't get super excited about Keenan Allen, but we definitely should be excited about Keenan Allen. Week 1, 11.2 points in half PPR, and then last week in week 2, 27.1, 2 touchdowns, was the wide receiver 1 in all of fantasy. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be wide receiver 1 overall, and keep in mind, by the way, this was against the Tennessee Titans, the team that I said to play Amari Cooper against. I'm just saying, that matchup is great. Week 3, he gets my Minnesota Vikings. Our defense, man, listen, I love the Vikings, but I'm not scared of our Minnesota Vikings defense right now. And I just think that this game is going to be very high scoring. There's going to be a lot of points. And Keenan Allen should see a ton of targets in this game, especially with no Austin Eckler, running back for the Chargers, in this one. Austin Eckler is one of those running backs that gets a lot of targets. And without him on the field, we could see a lot of those go to Keenan Allen. Through 2 games, he's got 9 and 10 targets. You love to see that. He's not typically a big touchdown scorer, but he got 2 last week. But at the very least, he is a very, very safe play just with the talent. No Austin Eckler, the matchup, the potential for high scoring. He's a must start that I think is a very safe play. And he could, have another big game. He was the wide receiver 1 last week overall. We'll see what happens, but I think you got to get him in your lineup in week 3. He's a must start. We're going to move on to the tight end position, and we're going to go with Pat Freiermuth, tight end of the Steelers. Listen, I don't make these videos to tell you to play Travis Kelce. I'm trying to give you some advice that you can actually use. It has not been a great start for Pat Freiermuth, but we're kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel here. He's only had 1 catch in each of the first couple games. Week 1, they just got absolutely annihilated by the 49ers. And then last week, he only had 1 target. Week 3, I'm thinking you can still stream him. I like the matchup against the Raiders. Still no Deontay Johnson. It should be a good matchup for tight ends. Listen, the tight end position is gross. I just think this is a guy that you can throw out there. Hope he gets in the end zone. He did get in the end zone in week 1 on his 1 reception. So hopefully he has more than 1 reception. I like him as sort of like a lower tight end 1. A higher tight end 2 if you don't really have one of those locked in, Darren Waller, Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce type of guys. And my next tight end start of the week is Taysom Hill, tight end of the New Orleans Saints. Listen, Taysom Hill is one of the more obscure players in the league. Is he a quarterback? Is he a running back? Is he a tight end? It's hard to say. If he's listed as a tight end on your fantasy platform, I think you can do a lot worse than starting him in week 3 against the Green Bay Packers. They have a ton of just injury and suspension situations going on in New Orleans. Alvin Kamara suspended. No Javonte Williams in week 3. It's going to be a mishmash of players. I think Kendre Miller should be playing, but he's a rookie. This is his first game. He's been dealing with injuries. So last week, in week 2, we saw Taysom Hill get 9 carries, turn that into 75 yards, 8.3 a carry. It even had a catch, was for -1 yards, but if you're in a PPR, half PPR league, those catches are worth points. It turned into 8.2 points, which was almost a tight end 1 finish on the week, oddly enough. But in my opinion, Taysom Hill, when he's given the opportunity, he is one of those rare players at the tight end position that can actually do something difference-making for your lineup. If you're deciding between someone who might score 5 points versus someone who might score 7 points, there's not really a big difference. You're just kind of hoping for the touchdown luck with whoever you play. But with Taysom Hill, he has shown an ability in the past to have huge games. Looking back at last season, he finished as the tight end 3 with 14.8 points in week 1. He was the tight end 14 in week 4. He was the tight end 1 in week 5 with 34.1 fantasy points. Tight end 6 in week 7 with 9.6. The tight end 9 in week 11. The tight end number 1 again in week 13 with only 12.3, but the tight end position is gross. Tight end 8, tight end 6 in week 16 and 17. So when you're looking at the tight end position, again, if you don't have one of those guys that is just a must start like a Kelsey, I think this is a good week where if you're just kind of throwing someone out there, throw Taysom Hill in the lineup, because I think he's a solid bet to have like a good game, you know, single digit points. But he has that rare ability to actually pop off for fantasy where he can win you a week. If if he breaks off a big run, catches a pass, he might even throw a touchdown. He's just one of those unique players. So I think this is a week, or like if you're in a DFS lineup too, where it might be worth throwing him in the lineup and just seeing what happens. Because even, if he has like 5 points, 6 points, 7 points, it's probably not going to be any different than what your other streaming options will likely do unless they just so happen to fall into the end zone. So that's enough talking about Taysom Hill, and that's enough of me talking in general. That's the end of the video. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. Please make sure to drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.